Book of Heaven, Volume 17, February 22nd, 1925. How in creating man, God formed many paths in order to facilitate his entrance into his will, and therefore into the Celestial Fatherland. I was thinking about the holy divine volition, and I prayed my lovable Jesus that by his goodness, he would give me the grace to fulfill his most holy will in everything. And I said, "You who love and want that your will be done, help me, assist me, and feed me this will of yours in every instant, so that nothing else may have life in me." Now, while I was praying, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior, and clasping me tightly to himself, told me,
"My daughter, how my heart is wounded by the prayer of one who seeks only my will. I hear the echo of my prayer, which I did when I was on earth. All my prayers reduce themselves to one single point, that the will of my Father be fulfilled, both upon me and upon all creatures. This was the greatest honor for me and for the Celestial Father, that I did his most holy will in everything. By doing the will of the Eternal One, always and in everything, my humanity opened the paths between the human will and the divine, which had been closed by the creature. You must know that in creating man, the divinity formed many paths of communication between creator and creature. Paths were the three powers of the soul: the intelligence, the path in order to comprehend my will; the memory, the path in order to remember it continuously. The will, in the middle of these two paths, formed the third path in order to take flight within the will of his creator. The intelligence and the memory were the support, the defense, the strength of the path of the will, that it might not stagger, either to the right or to the left. Path was the eye, that he might look at the beauties and the riches present in my will. Path the hearing, that he might hear the calls, the harmonies present in it. Path the word, in which he might receive the continuous outpouring of my word fiat, and the goods that my fiat contains. Path the hands, so that by raising them in his works in my will, he might come to unifying his works with the works of his Creator. Path the feet, to follow the steps of my will. Path the heart, the desires, the affections, to be filled with the love of my will and rest in it. See then how many paths there are in the creature in order to come into my will, if he wanted to. All paths were opened between God and man, and by virtue of our will, our goods were his. After all, he was our son, our image, a work come out of our hands, and from the ardent breath of our bosom. But the human will, ungrateful, did not want to enjoy the rights to our goods which we gave to it. Not wanting to do our will, man did his own, and by doing his own, he put bars and fences across these paths. He constrained himself within the miserable circle of his will. He lost hours and went wandering in the exile of his passions, of his weaknesses, under a tenebrous sky, loaded with storms and with thunders. Poor child, in the midst of so many evils, wanted by himself. So, each act of human will is a bar that he puts across mine. It is a fence that he forms to prevent the union of our wills, and the communication of goods between heaven and earth is interrupted. My humanity, compassionating and loving man with infinite love, by doing the will of my Father in everything, kept these paths whole, and impetrated the removal of the bars and the destruction of the fences which the human will had formed. And so it opened the paths again for whomever wants to come into my will, to give back to him those rights, wanted by us, with which we created him. Paths are necessary in order to facilitate the journey. They are the means for man to be able to make, very often, a little visit to his celestial fatherland. And knowing how beautiful his fatherland is and how happy one is in it, he loves it and yearns to take possession of it, and therefore he lives detached from the exile. These paths in the creature were necessary so that, very often, she might rise to her true fatherland, she might know it and love it. And a sign that the soul is on these paths, that she loves her celestial fatherland, is that, placing herself on the way in our will, she makes her little visits. This is also a sign for you. Don't you remember how many times you took the way to heaven and penetrated into the celestial regions, and after you had made your little visit, my will made you descend into the exile? And since you loved the fatherland, the exile seemed ugly and almost unbearable to you. Your love for the fatherland, your feeling the bitterness of living in exile, was a good sign for you that the fatherland is yours. See, this happens also with the low things of this world. If one has a large property, he forms a path in order to go visit it very often, to enjoy it, to take the goods which are in it, and while visiting it, he loves it and carries it in his heart. On the other hand, if he does not form a path, he never visits his properties, because without a path it is almost impenetrable. He never speaks about it. This is a sign that he does not love it, and that he despises his own goods, and even though he could be rich because of his bad will, he is a poor one who lives in the most squalid misery. This is why, in creating man, my wisdom wanted to form the paths between me and him, to facilitate for him sanctity, the communication of our goods, and his entrance into the celestial fatherland.
Thank you for being a part of our community here at Divine Will app. If you enjoy listening to Jesus' lessons on how to live in the divine will, please give this video a thumbs up. Your likes help us reach more souls yearning to live in the kingdom of the divine will. We'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections, so drop a comment below. Your insights not only enrich our community, but also inspire others on their spiritual journey. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. By joining us, you're helping to spread the news of the kingdom of the divine will, so that together we can bring His kingdom to reign on earth as it is in heaven. In the divine will, always.